Just watched the first and possibly only presidential debate this year because it was such a mess that it's possible the campaigns won't agree to a round two or round three. There's a lot of talking points around this. I contemplated doing a live stream, but that would have meant commenting and replying to comments, and I want to watch it, so I'm not sure that would have been practical. They're discussing it on CNN, and of course, Trump supporters will say CNN's biased, but they done a poll on swing voters, and I think their reaction was pretty much in keeping with how a lot of people will react to this. It was just a mess. Um, I knew this would be very robust. There's never been love lost between these two men, but it really was just chaotic from start to finish. Um, I don't think either candidate particularly won. I think Biden came out stronger, but um, it really was not a good advertisement for American democracy, quite honestly. Um, you know, some of the commentary on CNN and elsewhere are saying that Chris Wallace was a weak moderator. I think that's a bit unfair. I think he was trying his level best under um, absurd circumstances. I mean, absurd behavior from the president, motively interrupting absolutely was from Trump. And if you look at that with an objective mind, you can see that. Here's the thing, right? Trump supporters, there really is, in my opinion, and this might annoy or insult some people, but I think it has to be said. Trump supporters are incapable of critical thinking. What I mean by that is it really, really doesn't matter what Trump says or does, they will doggedly defend him. I've seen more introspection from Biden supporters. I've seen more Biden supporters prepared to acknowledge Biden's shortcomings. Trump supporters are utterly, utterly sycophantic. I mean, it is cult like. It really is. Because every time, already people are claiming, oh, it's two lefties against Trump. As if a Fox News anchor, Chris Wallace, is suddenly a lefty because he's trying to do his job. Trump predictably got into a lot of ad hominem insults. Biden, to be fair, did get pissy at times too. He told the president to shut up, which was less than diplomatic. But maybe Biden thought this is the only way to handle this president. I've never seen anything like this, and I kind of expected that, but it's um, it's not great for American democracy. It was hard to make out a lot of the content because there's so much interrupting. Here's the thing, and this is the fundamental point I would make. If you actually consider the questions that were asked of the candidates, Biden was far more consistent in actually answering the questions. People could say what they want about his answers or about um, his politics, but thinking purely of the optics, you know, if you looked at that debate objectively, Biden definitely was more direct in answering questions. I'll give a few examples. Asked about disorder and crime, Biden clearly said that he condemned violent protest. Now, maybe Biden should go further. Maybe Biden should distance himself from Black Lives Matter. Maybe he could do a lot of things. But the point is, he did say that there is no place for violent protest. Asked about white supremacists, the Proud Boys, Trump said something to the effect of they should stand by. He didn't condemn them. Now, Trump supporters, of course, will just ignore that. They'll either say it's fake news or just pretend they didn't hear it. And that, to me, is a disgrace. That the President of the United States cannot bring himself to condemn a blatantly far right group. I think if the question wasn't asked, but I think if Biden was asked directly to condemn far left extremes, I think he would. Um, I just think that Biden was more direct in answering the questions. Importantly, asked if he would concede defeat, Biden said he would. Trump evaded the question. But in the deluded mind of Trump sycophants, they think that being bombastic and obnoxious and getting into extremely personalized attacks and ignoring the rules, they think that is fair conduct. Trump supporters would look at a boxing match and see one candidate constantly headbutting his opponent, saying, "Oh well, he's doing what he can to win." In my opinion, they don't have a sense of. I'm talking about the hardcore Trump supporters here. They don't have a sense of integrity. They don't have a sense of decency. They admire bombast. They admire crudeness. They admire what this president is, and I just can't get my head around it. What I find particularly troubling is the correlation between the number of conspiracy nuts who, for example, believe COVID is all fake and Trump supporters. Um, they really, a lot of Trump supporters really do go down that rabbit hole. They'll come out with things like it's all part of the New World Order. It's all, it's depressing actually. Now, when I looked at this, I didn't come in thinking about the politics. I have a lot of contentions with Joe Biden. I certainly think Biden of 10 years ago would have been much better. I do think his age showed sometimes, and I think that he doesn't do enough to distance himself from far left factions. He says he has a Democratic Party. I think he needs to do a lot more to denounce the far left. It's good that he condemns violence, but he needs to do more. But Trump won't. That's the point. Trump refused. He was given an opportunity tonight to just condemn white supremacists. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. Trump supporters will ignore that because Trump supporters aren't actually interested in facts. They're not interested in um, integrity. The mind of a Trump supporter is might is right. And if our candidate's louder, he's better. I just think it's. I think if Trump wins this election, it will be a real statement on American society, quite frankly. And I'm saying that as someone with a lot of affection for the United States. I have American friends, you know. Um, but if Trump wins significantly, I think that will be an indictment of American society because this man is an utter demagogue. And the ad hominems now, people might say the issue about Hunter Biden was relevant because it's to do with potential scandal. Okay, but the way he done it, so personalized, to attack him as a drug addict, it's just. By the way, notice Biden never attacked Trump's family, not once. He never attacked the nepotism, the drive within the Trump clan. He could have, he didn't. Um, I just don't know how anyone can doggedly support Trump. I can just about understand people maybe preferring Trump to Biden, but I think there's a lot of Trump supporters who kind of grudgingly support him. They don't like the stuff he comes out with. I've heard Trump supporters say that they agree with his politics, but not the way he delivers them. So that's one kind of Trump supporter, and those people I sort of understand. I don't agree with them particularly, but they're more reasonable. But then you get the Trump sycophants, and it's clear on show if you just look at the social media responses to this. Um, and they're not just Americans. You get Trump sycophants in the UK who admire bombast, who think that something admirable about Trump's style. I don't think there is. I think it's petulant, petty. It's very unpresidential. I mean, my goodness, these are two men who are vying to be in the most powerful office in the world. So I don't know if there'll be another debate. But that's my thoughts. Um, I really don't think this is actually even about Trump versus Biden. It's more about, I don't think Biden's a great candidate. I don't, or at least the Biden of 10 years ago would have been a lot better. But honestly, it doesn't even matter because Trump is so god awful that it wouldn't really matter who the Democrats put up. I think that, I mean, if you look at the questions about coronavirus, over 200,000 deaths in the United States, Trump was right to say that other countries might have higher death tolls, but there is a dismissiveness and a callousness about his attitude to this. And he said himself, if it was between 100,000 and 200,000 deaths, it would be a good job. Well, it surpassed that. So by his own reckoning, it's not a good job, is it? But again, Trump supporters, it's fake news. That's the only answer they have to anything. So I'm not going to pretend I'm neutral. I just can't believe that people would doggedly defend Trump after this. But I will say this. There was perhaps one point where Trump had the upper hand. It was something about racial sensitivity training courses. I think Biden needs to understand that a lot of people, a lot of moderates and centrists as well, are tired of woke dogma. So maybe that's an area where, Biden definitely could have done better. But I think that Biden came out stronger in this debate, but neither candidate came across as great. Biden was a bit slow at times. He didn't always capitalize on the attacks. And sometimes he played Trump's own game. But to Trump supporters who think that that is a way to conduct the debate, by breaking your own rules, by getting into extremely personalized attacks about your opponent's son, and that wasn't even a political attack particularly. It might have been legitimate if it was. Anyway, that's my thoughts.